Hello, welcome to another Digital Photo Mentor Live. Oops, my title is incorrect. Let me fix that. Today we are doing special effects. We are not doing street grunge. We did that last time. There we go. Fix my title. Welcome wherever you are joining in from. I see lots of familiar names in the chat. And the first thing I want to do is just check my audio and make sure that I'm syncing. Um, I know that sometimes it gets out of sync, so tell me if my lips match what you're seeing on the screen. Is it synced? Is the volume good enough? Uploaded my star for my class. Lips not syncing to sound. Okay, let me try a different setting. Is that any better, Stephanie, or worse? Better or worse? So Stephanie says it's not syncing, lip syncing. You don't want me to sing. Hello from Myrtle Beach, Bruce, Jerry. Nope, it's not better. Okay, let's try the other direction. Okay, how about that? Is that any better or worse? Not in sync. Dan Butler. Hi from St. Louis. Hi, Lee. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it in sync here, but is that better? Thanks, Stephen. I actually lost a bet about the Oilers, and I had to shout in the middle of the street on Friday night that the Oilers suck. So I really was not happy about that. Yeah, it's out of sync, and I don't know if I can change it, Rob, because I put it way one direction. And I don't know what causes this. I honestly don't. I've changed the mic delay now. Worse. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I can make it any better. Let me try it now. I could turn it off. Is that any better or worse? Give it a minute. Anyways, I want to tell you, I understand that I'm out of sync, but I want to tell you about our community. Our DPM community is having 1 year anniversary Zoom call. So for our community members, yeah, I know it's not matching, guys. Oh, PR says it was better. Was it better a minute ago? It was better. Okay. I could change it again. All I can do is change the number of frames of delay. Hello from Nigeria, Steph in Fort Saskatchewan. Yes, the darn Oilers. I know, I wasn't happy about it. So our DPM community is having a 1 year anniversary. So for our community members that are in the chat, thank you for being a part of our community for 1 year. We would welcome all of you to come and join our community. Rob, if you could please put my lips are too slow. Put a link to a community in the chat. I'm sorry, my lips are slow. I will endeavor to make my lips move faster. So let me just get smaller on the screen. That will help the issue. And the second thing I want to talk about is our Luminar course is currently on sale. Actually, it's regular $97 and it's currently on sale for $67. This is the great price. It's all redone for 2025. So I just want to let you know about those two things because we're going to be talking all about Luminar Neo today and special effects in Luminar Neo. So I want to let you know that the course is on sale and I do all of these things and more inside the course. So let me get back to Luminar here. All right. Okay, so I've got a number of different things that I can demonstrate today. And I've put a few in a little collection here, a little album. And I've got some examples to show you of things that we can do with Luminar Neo. A lot of the special effects can be done with layers, okay? So, for example, let me show you some examples. This one here is the original image, okay? Just spruced up, nice and clean. And then I added a texture overlay, which is the grunge edge, and the neon and glow tool is the circle around the bird. So we can create something like this. This is the same kind of idea. This is just an overlay that goes over top as a layer. Okay. So I want to start with this kind of neon effect. I've done this as well with this flower. So let me just show you the edits on this one, and we're going to create something similar to this with a different image. Okay. So the original is just black background. Okay. So the neon and glow was added to the flower here, okay, on this layer. And then the bokeh was added on top, right, as a layer set to lighten blend mode. And because it's set to lighten, it only appears where the black is. Okay. I believe I did do a little bit of masking on this one. Just to remove it off the corners of the flowers where it was showing up. But otherwise, it just shows up because of the blend mode. Okay. All right. So let's create something like this with the daffodil. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is add the background layer. Now, this is a stock image that I downloaded from Unsplash. So if you want to do this kind of thing, just find the flowers. I'll make a collection after we're done. I'll make a collection and you'll find it in the description for the video. I haven't made the collection right now, but I'll make a collection of the images that I use that are stock images today, and you can download and follow along if you want, rewatch the video later, and then you can try these things yourself. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is add a layer. Okay. Now the one that I added on the other one was one of our bokeh overlays. And when you have our Luminar course, you get several of our bokeh overlays as free and bonus included with the course. So I want to find one that's got like some yellow. Maybe I'll go opposite color, actually. We could go blue. We could go this blue. Or I could go pink in the background. What do you think? Let's go blue and green, actually. Let's go blue and green. So when I add it as a layer, okay, it comes on top. And the default is normal blend mode. This is the key here, the blend modes. Oops, let me turn my cursor pointer on. There we go. I don't know why it's blue today and not green, but apparently it's blue. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the key to making this work is in the blend modes. So remember I said the other one was lighten. So let's just change the blend mode to lighten. Now it doesn't work quite as perfectly on this one because the other flower was white. Okay, I can also shift these around and get them so that they're more on one side or the other. Okay, so I want to make sure that the bokeh is behind the flower. Okay, so there's actually two ways to do this. I could change the layer order and put the bokeh underneath, right? In which case then I need to change this layer's blend mode, right? Still not quite showing up all the flowers. So I still think it was the best on top. But that's another option, okay? So I can move the bokeh below and you can readjust the layer orders like so, okay? Now the bokeh's on top again. I'm just going to go and mask it like I did off of the other flower. Now the challenge with masking this is that you don't have the ability to do mask AI, because if I do mask AI, it's not going to find the flower because this layer is just bokeh. So I have to use the brush here, okay? There's really no other option. So I'm going to erase, and I'm just going to turn the softness down, okay? So I don't want it on the flower, okay? Now, obviously, I've painted way over, right? But you're getting the idea here. So I want to paint out the stems and the leaves. I'm just going to paint out the whole thing, and then I'm going to come back and refine it a little bit, okay? So I want to get this here. Let's get the whole leaf. Where's the edge of the leaf? Okay, there we go. Missing that one. Okay, so now I've got the whole flower. Now I just need to make it blend a little bit better. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm using my keyboard shortcuts. So if you're not familiar with keyboard shortcuts, I use them a lot when I'm editing, right? So I want to switch from erase to paint. Instead of having to come over here, I've got my brush over here. I'm going to press X on the keyboard. See how that changes from erase to paint? Now, when I paint in here, right, it's going to give me the bokeh back, okay? when you come up against the edge of something like this, you want to have a harder edge brush. Okay, so you don't want it to fade so much. You want to have the edge nice and clean. Okay, so I'm trying to get close to this edge here. You also need to change your brush size. So again, keyboard shortcuts. So I'm changing the brush size with the square bracket keys. Okay, so I'm going to get all the way in here. I tried to get my tablet working real quick before we started, and I have the settings wrong, so I didn't want to muck around with it. But if you have a graphics tablet, this is the way to go here, because it's much easier to paint with a graphics tablet than it is with a brush. This thing is throwing me off here, so I need to be able to see my cursor. Okay, so I just want to paint in here. Now my painting is not perfect. My Annie stretch of the imagination in here, right? And because the edge of the flower is a little bit soft, I might come and do a softer edge brush just to clean up the edges a bit. I'll show you that in a minute. So I paint fairly quickly and then refine it. Okay, smaller brush, square bracket keys. Okay. So I want to paint this back in. So I'm erasing the mask, remember? So I'm erasing the mask, and now I'm painting it back in. I erased it off the flower, and then I overpainted, so now I'm painting it back in. I want to make sure I've got all of the black edges here, like so. And if I go over the edge of the flower a little bit, I think that's okay. Now I'm just going to go with a little bit softer brush and a little bit bigger brush, and just go around the edge to soften it a tiny bit. Okay, so the edge of the flower isn't quite as sharp as I made it first. Okay, something like that. Again, my painting is not perfect. I apologize. I could also paint with a lower opacity as well, right? And do a few more brush strokes instead of just all at once. And that's another good way to sort of build up your brush strokes. Okay. I'm just going to do this a little bit faster and not so perfect because I want to get on to the next step. So the idea again is you add the layer, whatever it is you're going to put in, decide whether it's going to be behind the original image or on top of. So you can use your blend modes either way, and then mask out or in as necessary. Okay. A little bit missing right here. Get over here. And I don't think there's any bokeh here. Oh, there is one here. So let's go right along this edge. Okay, there we go. So I still think this edge is a little bit too sharp. So I'd like to clean up this edge a little bit and soften it, right? So I'm just kind of going back and forth here. Okay, it's not perfect, but I'm going to go with this, okay? Just soften this edge a little bit. There we go. I'm a perfectionist, can you tell? Okay, so now I'm going to back out. Oops, I forgot to do the part up here. Okay, let's paint this in. Where's my brush? My brush disappeared. There it is. So let me get this area. There we go. Right, see, I've missed a bit right in here because I was at lower opacity. Smaller brush. So when you're doing any kind of work like this, okay, you have to spend some time doing the masking. I would spend a lot more time normally, but I'm just trying to do it quicker in the essence of time today, okay? So let me fix my boo-boo. So I switch back and forth from erase to paint so I can get it correct. And we're pretty close. Okay, so notice I don't have to paint up there because it's not, there's no bokeh there, right? I could also choose to remove this entire bokeh if I don't want it to show at all. Okay, so that's an artistic decision that I could make as well. Okay, close enough. Okay, so now we have the bokeh added on the background. I can decide if I like the color and the placement and also fade it out a little bit. Okay, I think there's too many of them on this one. Okay, so I might actually change it, but I've done the work on masking this one, so we're gonna go with it. But because it's been added as a layer, I can now edit this layer separately. So rather than changing the opacity, I'm actually just going to edit it. Okay, so I can go to develop and darken it if I want. Okay, look at how the color then comes out even more. Okay, if I want it less intense, I can dial the saturation down. Okay, and I can also completely shift the color. So if I don't like the color of this bokeh, right, I can just go to color and shift all the hues. Okay, so this hue shift slider at the bottom, right, now I have more green and yellow, right, the other way, pink. So I get to decide what colors I want. I think green and yellow is probably better, but now the colors are going a little bit wonky. Okay? The other way you can shift the colors is individually using the hue options. Okay, so I can shift the blue more to cyan or purple. Okay, I can shift cyan to more green. I can shift green to more yellow and so on. Okay, and I can also use these things in combination, so I can shift them and then do this one. Okay, I'm still not crazy about these colors at all. So what I also can do, just remove the color tool, is make it black and white. So I can just have white bokeh. Okay, now that's kind of boring, right? However, we have the toning tool. So if we go to toning, we can set the color of our highlights. So if I want yellow highlights, right, I can just pick the color I want. And now we have yellow. Okay. Balance slider, because there's two options here for setting the color for the shadows and the highlights. If I go more this way, it's shadows, which I haven't added a color to, but this way is more towards the highlights, which means I get more intense color. Okay, so I can go as intense as I want. Okay, maybe I want blue instead. Okay, so the opposite color. So remember, I shifted this to, I changed it to black and white first. Now I'm just dialing in the color. So you can really use any color that you want, right? I kind of like the blue. What do you guys think? I think I like the blue, right? Now I find that the bokeh is a little bit too sharp and too overpowering. So I'm going to go use the blur tool and let's use Gaussian blur. See how that just changes the bokeh, right? So now we're making bokeh of our bokeh. So I want to just blur it a little bit like that. I could also get into doing things like the twisted or the motion blur, right? If I go to twisted, we start to create a zoom. If I change the angle, we start to create a twist, right? So I can create something more abstract in the background if we want, okay? But for this purpose, I think just a little bit of Gaussian blur, right? So special effects like this are all about experimenting and just trying stuff, right? Like I tried the bokeh overlay. I wasn't crazy about the color, so now I've shifted the color, okay? One thing to keep in mind is now that I've done the mask though, if I decide to flip it, okay, if I want it the opposite direction, the mask is going to flip with it, okay? So you have to get the positioning and size of the layer, then do your masking. Watch what happens if I flip it, okay? See the mask flipped with it. I wish there was a way to lock the mask and be able to leave it the where it was, but currently that's not an option, okay? If you're used to Photoshop, you can lock the mask and the layer together or unlock them so that the layer and the mask are editable separately, okay? Let me see if I have any questions in here. Just uploaded the star for the yellow flower. Awesome. Okay, I'll show you that one as well. So he's talking about Dave was talking about, I demonstrate this in the course. Okay. Oh, perfect timing then for you, Dave. That's exactly where you are. Awesome. It does not have a tool to select the subject. That is one of the issues. It does have Mask AI, but like I said, when I'm on Mask AI, because I'm on the bokeh layer, it won't find the flower. And there isn't a way currently in Luminar to copy the mask from one layer to the next. That's something that I've requested with their support team multiple times. Exactly, Lee. That's exactly it. Yeah. And as I said, you cannot do that either. You cannot select it on the flower layer and then copy that mask and paste it onto a new layer. There is no option. Okay. It's a great idea. I'd love to be able to do that, because if I go to the flower layer, I can use Mask AI and it should find flora. Okay. But watch what happens. Okay. There is no copy and paste mask. So yeah, see, it didn't even find the flora. Didn't even find the flower on the flower layer. Okay, so let's just call it, so it finds sky as the background. Okay, so let's just say the sky is now the background. Okay, if I go down here, see, there's no copy. Okay, there is no option to copy the mask on a layer. Okay, unfortunately. So that's the issue. Twofold, right? There is no copy and paste from one layer to another, and there you can't use the Mask AI on the bokeh layer. Okay. I'm just going to come back to the bokeh layer one more time, and I find it's just a little bit intense still, so I'm going to darken it just a little bit more and lower the saturation just a tiny bit. Okay, now we're getting close. We're getting somewhere. Okay. Now we need to add the neon glow. So I'm just going to do a simple one first to show you how to do a simple one. So we need to be on the flower layer first. Okay. And we need to go to the neon and glow tool, which is down here under creative. Let me turn my cursor back on. There we go. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can just draw in whatever you want. So let's just say I want a triangle. So I'm just going to draw. See, that's a really bad triangle, right? It looks like a witch's hat. But I want to just get something in place, okay? So I'm going to draw that in. Then I can dial in the color that I want. So let's say I want yellow to match the flower, okay? The whiteness, so less white or more color. And I want to bring the spread in, so it's just a thinner line, okay? Something like that. Okay, so it's a really bad neon glow. And then I'm going to mask it. Okay, so we just saw that it finds the background really nicely. Okay, so sky finds everything except the flower. So that does a pretty good job of tucking the neon, like it looks like it's coming from behind the flower. Okay. Now, because it's on this layer and the layer above is, of course, affected in terms of it's a light and blend mode, we're getting a little bit of change of color here. Okay. So a couple of different things. We can darken these areas on this other layer. So I could come back up here, right? And just paint in a little bit of darkness here. So I can darken the highlights. Actually, that's not bad overall. Or I can just say, I just want it in this area here. Okay. I just want to affect this area. Okay. So now I get a better bokeh. Okay. I get a better overlay of the neon here. Okay. So because that top layer is lightened, it's affecting this part here. Okay. That's one way to do the neon. Okay. I'm going to undo this one and show you another way to do the neon. Okay. So if we go to here, now I always forget how to do this now. Okay. So on the first one, neon, let's go to select object. Okay. So this one is object select. So it's going to create neon around the flower. Okay. Wait for it. There we go. Okay. So we could actually go with that if we want, or we could create something different. So I could create a neon glow around the flower, right? Bring it in closer so it's just right on the edge. Or let me show you a trick. Okay, so under refine object, this is where you can refine what is having the glow around it. Okay, so I'm going to erase what's there. So I'm telling it the flower is not my object. Okay, so I erased it, and now I can draw whatever I want. Okay, if you get a really big brush, okay, and just put it right here, for example, okay, I'm just going to click once. It's just going to make a circle. Okay, then when I come back to these options here, I can affect the indent, and it will change the size. Okay, I didn't put it at a very good place. Then we can do all of the tricks that I just did a minute ago. Okay. So now I have a circle, and once again, I just need to mask it off of that background. So I'll do sky, and it should be, now we have a circle behind the tulip, okay? Now my placement wasn't really very good there, so I can go back and refine it again. Remember, I've got a circle, so I just need to erase that circle using my big brush again. I'm going to do it up here this time. So I want the circle up higher, right? Oops, I'm still on erase. Helps if I click draw. Okay, so click draw. There's my circle, like so. Okay, if I'm not happy with it, let's do another one. Let's do it about there. There we go. Okay, so there's kind of our before and after. Okay, so now our tulip is angelic. It's got a little bit of a halo, right? We could also add a texture overlay on top of the bokeh if we want to grunge it up a little bit. I have one that is pink and blue that works really well. Rob, if you could please share a link to our ultimate editing bundle. These kinds of tools are all inside of our editing bundle. Okay, so I want the texture on top of the bokeh. And usually I'm going to use like an overlay or a soft light. Okay, and once again, it's on the tulip. Okay, so this time I'm just going to erase it with the brush from the tulip from the areas that I don't want it. Okay, so I don't have to be as precise with this one. Okay, so I don't want the tulip having so much texture. You know, maybe I want it to have a little bit of texture. You get to decide. Okay, so if you want it to have a little bit of texture, leave it in certain parts. Right, like so. So now we have 3 layers, one with the flower, one with the bokeh, and a texture overlay. Right? Question. Can we get rid of the background to start and make it white or black and then add the bokeh? Yes, you could do that as well. Right? So we could absolutely mask the flower image as well. Right? Because it's black on the background, it's actually easy to add kinds of overlays with a light and blend mode for that reason, but absolutely we could do that. Let me demonstrate that for you as well. I just was using the neon and glow tool, Manfred. That was the neon and glow tool that I was using to make the circle around the flower. I like the idea of turning the bokeh to black and white and then using the toning tool. Yeah, because then you can just choose the pattern of bokeh that you like, and it doesn't matter what color the original image is. You could make it any color you want. But by doing it that way, it becomes more monochrome, right? So I get the colors that I like. Is there a way to make the color of the circle all the same? Some parts are darker and lighter. Remember, I just mentioned that. I think I covered that as well. Because of the light and blend mode on the bokeh, okay, I just have to darken the bokeh on the background. So it's not the neon that is changing color. It's that bokeh on the overlay, right? And if we do it the way that Steven said, it will change that. It won't make that problem. how to make the stars less bright in magic light. Okay, that's a different tool, and we're not using it on this one, but I'll come back to that one. We could add a star here, actually. That's a great point, actually. Let me come back to that one, Manfred. Okay, so let's do two things. So we had a question about removing the background first. So I'm just going to hide these layers. Okay, so we're back to our flower. Okay, so on this one, I'm just going to turn the neon off. Okay, for now. Oops. There we go. I was on the wrong one. So all I did was dial it down. Okay, so it's still there. I can put it back if I want. However, let's go remove the background on this flower as was suggested. So let's go background removal and see what a good job it does to remove it. Okay, it looks like it's going to do pretty good. Okay, there's a little bit of black here and there, but I'm not super worried about that. I can zoom in a little bit. See, there's a little bit of black down there. So I'll zoom in here. And I'm just going to tell it that this little bit down here is background. Okay. And then I'll tell it this is the edge of my object. So I'm just redefining the edge for the program. Okay. It finds the edge. So this is a little trick. I'm holding down the backslash key so I can see where the original leaf is. And then I'm painting with object. Okay. It still didn't get the edge right here. I want it to sort of pop into the edge. Because it's got background here. That's why. There we go. Okay, so see that? Now, when we close that up, I'm just going to do a little refinement along the edge right here because it's a little bit wonky. There we go. So it finds the edges for us. Okay, now when I close the refinement brush up, that is a pretty good mask. Okay, so now we've removed this background here. Okay, so now when I turn the bokeh on, okay, you can see my mask was not perfect. So I can then fill this mask, okay, and put this over down below. Because this blend mode, two things are happening. Because this blend mode on the bokeh is lighten, okay, if I change it to normal, right, we can see what happens here. That's interesting. Let me fill this mask. Did I fill this mask? There we go. Okay, so that should, if I change this mode to normal, right, the bokeh overlay fills the screen, okay, if I change it to normal. But because it's lighten, right, we're still getting a little bit of the bokeh overlay. So I'm going to change it to normal and then just bring it underneath the flower, okay? Then all I have to do is change the flower blend mode, okay, to should be able to, it should be transparent. Why is that not transparent? Oh, did I fill the mask? I filled the mask on the wrong one. I filled the mask on the flower. Okay, there we go. Okay, so see what I did? I was on the wrong layer when I filled the mask. That's what happened. Okay, so now the mask isn't perfect, but we're just going to go with it. Now the flower is on top, and because I cut out the background, the whole flower shows, okay? And the bokeh is in the background. Now, of course, when I turn this one on, the texture is over both of them. But if I only want it on the bokeh, I can just drag it below the flower, okay? Now, though, the trick is adding that neon, okay? So the reason that I didn't remove the background on it the first time is, where are we going to add the neon glow? Okay, if we want that neon glow, I can't add it to this flower layer. Okay, remember it's still here. If I turn it on, okay, watch what happens. Nothing. Okay, it's nothing because the background is cut out and that's where it's showing. So we're not going to see it anything outside of the flower, right? So I would have to put the neon on a different layer. But because Luminar does not have blank layers, okay, that's not an option. I can't just, and I can't add it on this one because no matter what I do, it's going to be blue because of the tint that I've got here, right? So I've got the tint changing the bokeh to blue. So no matter what I do here, let's just try it. Oh, let's see. Maybe, that's my theory. Okay, so let's just try this theory, okay? So it's going to find all the bokeh. So when I drag up the neon, okay, it should find the bokeh. It's not really finding anything. So it didn't find any subject. Okay, so I can just draw a circle there. Oh, it does work. Okay. All right. Prove myself wrong. So I can make a circle and adjust it. It's still being affected by the blue though, okay, because it's over top of the blue. So it's tricky. We'd have to mask the bokeh out from behind it if we don't want any of it being lightened like this. Too much spread, maybe. There we go. Like so. So yes, there still is that tint difference there, and there's no way around that, right? Because it's going over top of the bokeh. But now this neon is on the bokeh layer. Okay, so you can't do a blank layer and put the neon on it. It has to go on another layer. It has to go somewhere. Okay, so if I don't want to put it here, okay, I'd have to add another layer of some kind. You know, like I could just add one of these that are mostly black with these. Yeah, see, it's like this, right? So I'd have to either find a completely black layer or make one that's just black. So these all have different things in them, right? These are light leaks. So I don't know if I'm going to get anything that is just pure black here, right? I'd have to add a black layer, right? Now what I did do was I created these stars and these shapes, okay? And that's what David was talking about. So the star I created just to do a demonstration of how you can create a shape. Okay, so I'm going to draw this. Yeah, this one here is just for reference. Okay, so I made this using a different program. I made this one for the students to use. Oops, that's not working. Okay, so I just want to see the star, and this layer is actually not going to stay there, okay? So if we come back to our layer with the blue bokeh, and let's get rid of the neon glow. Okay, come back to neon and glow. Okay, now we're going to draw it in with the draw tool, okay? But because we have the star here, it's just basically a template. So I know that I want yellow and like a really small spread and white. So now I'm just going to click on the tip of each one. So click right there. It's going to give me a dot, okay? And then shift click to the next one. That will draw a straight line. So I'm just going to do that on each side, right? To the tip. I'm using the outside of the star to draw it, okay? So I'm holding down the shift key every time I click, and then I get a straight line. You know, this one, I want to come just below it. So, yeah, I didn't quite meet up. There we go. It's a little crooked, but you get the idea. Okay, now I don't need the star layer anymore. So it was just as a template to show me how to draw the star. Okay, and it's now on the bokeh layer. So I'm on the bokeh layer. I can make that any color I want. Right, stars are generally yellow, right? So there we go. All right, so I want to address the other question that Manfred had about adding magic light. Okay, so if I want, let's say I want a starburst coming out of the tulip. It's a tulip, right? You can't use magic light unless there's something that is a pinpoint light source. So you have to create it first. Okay, so I'm going to use draw, And I'm going to use that same sort of color scheme that I just did a minute ago, right? Set to yellow. And I'm just going to click once right here. Okay. So notice how that's creating just an orange glow. Yeah, maybe I need it further outside the flower. Okay, so now I'm just creating this orange glow or yellow little highlight there. Then we can go to magic light, and when we turn it on, it's going to pick up key highlights. So it picked up this one, and it picked up the color as well. Notice it did pick up one on the tip of the star there also. So it's looking for bright highlights. Okay, so if I don't want it on here, I can just say, no, I just want this one. Okay. So the trick is when you're turning on like lights in your scene, for example, if you're adding a light, you need to brighten the light up first, and then magic light will work. Okay. Now watch what happens. Okay. So I made it like an orange color. If I come back to this neon and glow and change it to, let's make it pink. Okay. Watch what happens to magic light. Give it a second. Oh, it's not finding it. That's interesting. Didn't find the pink. Maybe I need to make it brighter. Okay, so I'll just make the pink a little bit brighter. There we go. I thought it would change it to pink for us. Let's try it again. Apparently, it doesn't like pink. Okay, so my theory blew my own theory here. Just get rid of that one. Let's try green. See if that works. Okay, so it likes green. It doesn't like purple, apparently. Okay, but it's like I said, whatever color you add with the neon and glow is what you're going to get for your magic light for the starburst. Okay. Now, if I change it to yellow, it should work. Okay, so changing this to yellow. There we go. Okay. And of course, if I want to put starbursts here, I can do that as well. I probably wouldn't put it on all of them, but you get the idea. Right? Any questions? We did a lot there. Hello, Nick. Welcome. Let's see. Margaret says, is there a way to put the neon hoop around the tulip instead of just behind it? Around the tulip. Oh, I know what you mean. Okay. Then we need to do something different again. Okay. I think I know what you mean. Okay, so I'm just going to, we're going to have to change some things. Okay, so I'm going to take off magic light. I'm going to take off this glow, and I'm going to remove the star for the moment. Okay. Now, if I want the, like the hoop, as she described it, to be partly over the tulip and partly behind it, that's another option. Okay, but I have to put the background back and do it on the actual tulip layer then. Okay, the other thing I can do is copy this layer because it'll have the mask on it. So one layer can have the mask and one layer can be without it. So it gets tricky, but I have to remove the mask on this one. Okay, so I'm going to fill it, and then we have to put these back on top again. Right. So now we need to go back to how we had it originally. And now, of course, the tulip needs masking again. I'm not going to do a perfect job here. I'm just going to do a partial. Okay. You know, you get the idea. Okay. So I'm just masking it like this. So now if you want the bokeh, or sorry, the neon to be partly, see, the other option is, like I said, we can just remove this entire bokeh over here. So I can just get rid of it if I don't want it on the flower. Okay. There we go. So now we just removed it. Okay, so now if we want the neon half in front and half in back, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to, or I could do a triangle. Let's try triangle. Okay, so triangle is fairly easy to draw and I don't need a template for that. So I'm going to start here. So I'm going to click once here. Let's get yellow. So I'm going to start here. Then I'm going to click, shift click here. And then I'm going to shift click here. Oops, see, I'm on the wrong layer. I'm on the wrong layer. I need to be on the flower layer. See? Messed myself up. Okay, so back to the flower layer. Let's try that again. Always check which layer you're on. All right, draw, yellow. Okay, so we want draw, and I'm going to leave it at the high amount. So let's start here. So click once, shift click. Let's go here and finish it up. Okay, so now I have a triangle, okay? But I want it to go in front of the tulip here, but behind the tulip there, okay? Piece of cake. All I need to do is erase on this tool. So I'm masking this tool. I need to erase from here. I'm going to get softness 0. So I get the edge of the flower there to there. Okay, that wasn't perfect because this thing is throwing me off. My little cursor is throwing me off. Okay, so that wasn't perfect. Well, let me just blend it a little better. So we have a little bit of a glow. Okay, like so. There we go. Okay, so now is that kind of what you wanted, Marguerite? And it should come in between here as well. So I need to zoom in because it should come in between here too, right? So I want to get it in here. So it should come through in here too. So notice it's kind of, the line is glowing. So I need to get more than the line. See that? So I need to get the whole glow part. There we go. I'm going to change the glow a little bit too. There we go. Is that what you meant? Let's see. That's what you wanted for Magic Light, Manfred? Awesome, awesome. I'm hoping that's what Marguerite meant, so that you can actually have it sort of going in and out. And I missed a little bit there. I could mask it a little bit better here, right? So I need to, brush, erase, just a little bit more over here, like that. Yeah, so it makes it look more like 3D, right? So you've got it going intermixing, right? Like so. And then if I wanted to draw a second triangle and put it in a different color, for example, I just have to close the tool, open it again. Let me get my cursor. And then let's do a red one. Okay, so I'm going to do a red one and draw. Let's do it. I could do a circle, but let's just do a point from here to here to here. So I'm just crisscrossing the reds, right? Crisscrossing the triangles, right? Then I get to decide where I want my triangles, okay? So if I don't want it showing in front, this one I can mask, right? Completely so it's behind the tulip. And I'm not doing a very good job of that. Let's just get that. Okay, so it's behind. Like so. So now it's totally behind. And then I can decide, okay, where do I want it to? It's behind the yellow one as well. But maybe I want it in front of the yellow one here. Okay, so I can come over here and go like that. That didn't do what I wanted to do. I need to do that on the yellow one. If I want it behind the yellow one, I got to do that on the yellow one. So it gets a little tricky logistically. Okay, so yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that. Okay, so I put it behind. Something. It's something. Anyways, so let's try a different technique. We've done lots of neon glow. Let's try something different. Okay. So this tool is kind of fun for special effects like this. So I've used a bokeh, a texture, and a neon. Great. Lots of other things we can work on. All right. So we kind of created something similar but different to this one. Right. I wanted to show how to make this effect because this one is quite popular as well. There's a, I forget the name of this, but there's a thing where you can make parts of the image blurry, right? So this is the original, and that's what it looks like, right? And this one is using the blur tool, right, that we used earlier. I use the same thing to make the car look like it's moving, but I want to use a different image, okay? So I want to do something different with this one. Okay. So this is another one, another technique that I did where I did a twist or spiral, and that's done with the blur tool as well. Right. So I can show you how to do either of these. So let's take this image in and let's do some blur because I have an idea on this one. Okay. So I want to do a zoom blur. Okay. So if you want to do a zoom blur where things look like they're zooming out, okay, that's the twisted one, the twisted setting under blur. And if you leave the angle at 0, it zooms out. Okay. Now I want this zoom coming from the middle of these yellow flowers here. And I want the yellow flowers to be sharp. Okay, so I'm going to dial this down so I can see them. And then I'm going to go mask, object select, and I want to try and select the yellow flowers. If that doesn't work, I could try color. Okay, so I want to subtract it off of these ones. See, it's going one flower at a time. That's annoying. I was hoping it would get all of them. See, I have to do one flower at a time here. Oops. See, now it got too many of them. No. Undo. There we go. Oh, come on. All right. Back to subtract. You got to be careful you don't get too many. I was hoping it would just find all of them, but it's clearly not doing that. And then if I go there, it gets too many. So I want to just get, yeah, I'm just going to do the ones that it will let me. Like so. And then I'll fill it in with a brush. Yeah, see, that one gets too many. So when you hover over, you'll see that's erasing too much of the background. So is that one. Okay, so now I need to go with the brush, erase, and just get all of the ones in here. Okay. Again, I'm not worried about it being perfect. Right? I just want most of the yellow flowers. Like so. Okay. All right, now let's go back to adjustments and crank it up. So now we have the zoom going out from the tulips, right? Now that I can see it, I can come back here and say, well, I'd actually like it to blur a little bit down here, okay? Because it's too sharp on the edge. That's better. And maybe I want these leaves to blur a little bit, so I could paint that in. So now it becomes sort of a subjective thing. Okay, so I'm deciding which parts are blurred. Right, like so. Now, before I leave here, I'm going to copy this mask. Okay, so copy the mask because I want to intensify this effect. Okay, I could also choose to twist it if I want, because we're on twisted. If we change the angle to 45, right, we start to get this rotational look. but I'm going to leave it at 0. I just want the zoom. Close the blur tool, open it again, twisted, blur, and then paste in that mask. So it's going to give me the same mask, but I need to move this blur center to match. So I think it was somewhere over here, right? Like so. So it's doubling. Let me just turn that one on and off. So it's doubling the effect. See that? Where did I put the blur center on this one? Okay, so it's right at the top of that one. Okay, so I'm just checking where I put it. Oh, I've forgotten. Okay, I'm looking where it is. It was close. I was close. Right there. Okay, so then if we want to do it again, one more time. So twisted, 100%. Paste in the mask. Place the blur center. Okay, right at the top of this one. Okay, so now we've got this cool sort of zoom effect coming out from the center. Okay. We could do all kinds of things now. I could add a texture overlay. I could add a grunge overlay. Let me just think. See, this is all about, I'm just making it up as I go along here, guys. Just making it up. So let's do a grunge overlay. Okay, so a grunge edge looks like one of these things. Okay, so it looks like black and white. And when you put it over top of the image, okay, that's the one that I used on the seagull. Okay, when you put it on top of the image, all you need to do is change the blend mode. So in this case, I just need darken blend mode because then the black is going to show up. And if I have it fill or stretch, actually stretch. Nope, I just have to change the size. Okay, so I want to get the edges like this. There we go. Now we have some funky edges. And I can decide which way I want it to go. I think I kind of like it there. Yeah. Okay, so now we have a funky edges. If I want to put a texture overlay, we can do that as well. Or a bokeh. We could do all kinds of things here. Okay, so if I do a bokeh and I do lighten or screen blend mode, actually, ooh, overlay is kind of nice. I need to put it underneath the border, okay? That's actually kind of cool. I kind of like it like that, actually. And we could do a texture overlay as well. This one's got some writing on it, which is kind of interesting. You can also find things like sheet music and stuff like that that make interesting overlays. Let's try this one. It's got some Arabic writing on it. I don't know if it's going to go, but let's try it anyways. It has to go underneath the border. And once again, one of these blend modes. Yeah, I'm not sure about the Arabic writing, so you just try things. This is my process. I try something. It's like, no, I'm not sure about it. These are some textured papers. These are from our ultimate editing pack. Ooh, this one's kind of neat. Okay, so again, I need to put it underneath the border just in case and decide how much texture I want. Okay. Something like that. Okay, so we've used the blur tool, a bokeh overlay, an edge, grunge, and a texture on this one. Right? We could do some really neat stuff. Like I could even convert this one to black and white, right? And the ones on top will be in color. So then you get a little bit of color there, right? Or I could say, well, I want just the yellow, right? Maybe I want a little bit of yellow and red, like so. Okay. That's why I like the black and white tool. It kind of gives you these neat options. Ooh, that's kind of cool. See, I like that. Minimizing the blue. Unfortunately, there's no orange. You have to do a mixture of yellow and red. I like the green. And there's no cyan. Yeah, I don't want so much pink for sure. So that's kind of cool. Oh, I like that, actually. And remember, we can change the color of the bokeh at any time if we want as well. And the blend mode, you can change the blend mode. You can change the intensity of it, right? This one works great with multiply too. To darken things, like that's a completely different look. Okay, so changing the blend mode completely changes everything. We can go lighter. We could go darker. We could go more intense, and so on. And that's the beautiful thing about what's called non-destructive editing, okay? So all of these things are on layers. The original image is still on the bottom, and if we delete everything, it's completely unedited, okay? You can also make a virtual copy, okay? So you can make a virtual copy and then remove the edits, and the original is still there. So notice I have this version. Now we have 3 versions, right? The original. And it tells you I've actually got 4. See, this is my 4th copy. That's number 3. That's the original. Okay. So this is the original stock image. Okay. And if you want to see how I did this one, it's exactly what I did with the others. Okay. I've also got a version where I put the tulip on top as well. So the original, let me just turn these off, right? Okay, so there's the original layer, and all I did was I did some developments to darken it, enhance it, and so on. But I did the spiral blur, okay? So the twist blur at 100% with the 45-degree angle, okay? And then I just did it 2 more times, exactly the same. And then all I did was add some structure and contrast. Then I duplicated the layer, okay? And inverted the blurs. Okay, so remember the blurs were at 45 degrees. Now they're at minus 45, and that creates the opposite pattern. Okay, creates the opposite pattern. And because it's on a layer, now we have the option of blend modes. And if I change the blend mode, it looks completely different. Okay, we could create something totally different. Let's go with that one. Okay, so now it's on lighten. Then I did another layer. I think this one was a stamp layer, actually. This one was a stamp layer because I wanted to add something on top. So this one doesn't really affect any. Oh, this one's opacity 0. Here, yeah, see, I put a stamp layer on top of the original. I put another layer on top of the original one, but I don't need that right now. And I could also put the tulip on top, right? So I cut it out of the back. Oh no, I didn't cut it out, right? I was playing around with blend modes here. So now we have sort of a ghost tulip. It looked different before because I had the different blend modes on this one. Not using that layer. So this layer changes everything. So this top one here, right, is where you get your effects and how bright you make it, right? I think I had it at screen before, like that, right? And then when I put the tulip on top, right, make something completely different again. I can also duplicate the tulip layer and intensify it. Okay, so layers are, I would say, the #1 thing for creativity and creating a special effects on doing these kinds of things, right? But keep in mind that like a lot of the tools, like we just seen the neon and glow and the magic light, are great at doing effects as well. Questions about that one? Nick said some great creative looks there. Amazing. Looking forward to experimenting. That's what it's all about, Catherine. It really is. You know, like when I set out to do this today, I put some images in a collection, but I had sort of no plan as to what I was going to do with them. They're just evolving. Okay. Let's see. So this one is the same, right? So I just did the flower and cut it out from the original background. I'll show you the original, right? When it takes a minute for it to load. So you can see the original flower. There's a texture overlay and a couple of bokeh overlays, but you don't see the bokeh, do you? So there's the original, okay? So let's build this one, okay? So the flower was cut out and put on top. Okay, there's one bokeh overlay, there's the other. So that is the texture layer. Okay, so on the texture layer, I've done the zoom blurs. Okay, couple of zoom blurs. Rob, somebody is coming to the front door. Then I added the bokeh and zoomed it again. Okay, so if I remove the bokeh, or the blur, okay, that's what the bokeh looks like. And I blurred it like 4 times. So it ends up just adding spots of brightness. Then I did it again, but I flipped it so that it's in a different place. Okay, so now the brightness is in a different area, also with the zoom blurs. Okay, then I had the cutout of the flower and I put it on top. Okay. Then if I want the texture overlay, let's say I want some texture over top the whole thing, I could duplicate this texture layer, put it on top, okay? And then let's just remove all these blurs. I'm going to discard the edits because I want the texture overlay. And let's just do a little bit of a texture. There we go. Nah, he went away, Rob. Okay, so there is some texture. And if I don't want it on the flower, you know what to do. Erase. And I'm just kind of doing it random because I don't want it on all of the flower, but I want it to blend a little bit. Right? So there's another addition. Right? Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. Okay. The more you add, the more it gets a little confusing. I wish Luminar allowed us to label the layers, but if you hover over it, you can see the file name, right? But you can't remember what you've done on that layer, right? Like this one is blurred, this one is not, right? So you have to kind of just toggle it on and off using the hide thing, okay? Let's do one more example, okay? I have time, oops. I have time to do one more example. What would you guys like to see? Would you like to see me add the reflection here? So this is an image that I took in, I think it was upstate New York in Rochester. And Rob likes to tell this story where a skateboarder, this is a long exposure. I did several images and it's an HDR that's been merged. And I put in the reflection and the skateboarder. And so the skateboarder is actually AI. It's quite funny, actually. Right. So let's do a reflection. Okay. Would you like to see how to add a reflection? So let's say you want the pavement to look wet with a reflection. Okay. So it's pretty easy to do. So what you have to do is make a copy of the layer. So we can duplicate the layer. Right. And then we need to turn it upside down. Okay. So we need to flip it upside down. And I'm going to dial the opacity down, okay, to get it in the right place because I want this to line up. So there's the sidewalk, okay, so I'm going to line up the edge of this sidewalk here with the edge of the sidewalk here, okay, so the reflection is going in the right place. Actually, if I want the reflection up higher, I'm going to move it up a little bit. There we go. Okay, that's a little better. I want to make sure it's in the middle. There we go. Okay, then obviously we need to change the blend mode. So it's probably going to be somewhere in here. Okay, so overlay and soft light gives a very different look, right? And I'm just looking at the bottom, right? So I'm just looking at the this area here. Now notice the reflection is not showing in this dark area, and that because of the blend mode that I've chosen. Right? If I choose lighten or screen, it does show up, but I don't think the reflections is realistic looking. Okay. So I'm going to go with one of these. This looks actually pretty realistic, right? Now, the thing with the reflection, okay, is that it fades, it should fade out towards the edge of the image. Okay, so even if I go to 100%, it's affecting this top here. Okay, so I want to get rid of the part of the image on the top. Okay, so I need to mask it, and I'm going to use a linear gradient because I only want it from here down. Right, so like so. Okay, so I want it to start there, right, and end there. Right, now it's not over the top, right? So if I turn this up, it's only affecting this bottom, okay? But I also want it to darken towards the bottom, okay? So I gotta go to masking one more time, right? Now I can't use linear gradient because I've already used that and it has to come from the edge. So I'm just gonna use brush, right? And I'm gonna erase at a lower percent, like 50%, and get a big brush. And I'm just going to go like one pass along the bottom like that. Okay. Perfect. Now I might do a second pass in the middle. So it's fading out. Can you see that? So it's fading out down to here. The other thing about a reflection is it wouldn't be as sharp, right? So we need to introduce some blur. So blur tool. And we can either just do Gaussian blur, like so, which actually looks quite realistic. But let's try motion blur. Okay, motion blur is side to side or up and down. Okay, so 0 is side to side. I don't know if motion blur is working or not. I think, honestly, Gaussian blur at a low amount was just right. See how it's just taking off the edge and it looks like there's a puddle there? Right? Now, what if I want the reflection to show up more here, which it's not doing, okay? I can go back to the bottom layer, okay? And I will do a little bit of customized lightening. So I'm going to mask using the develop tool, okay? Just in this area. So I'm going to use a brush with a fairly hard edge. And I want to get it the right size. So just in between here and here. Okay, so I'm going to start there and paint there. Yeah, my softness needs to be higher. Okay, I'm going to fix that because that was terrible. Let's start over. That was a terrible, terrible, terrible job of brushing that in. I'm going to go with much lower opacity. And I'm just going to paint it in this area. So remember, I'm painting this develop in. So I'm lightening this area. Okay. Apparently it's not doing that. There we go. Okay, let's try that again. All right, so just painting in here. There we go. So I just want to lighten the concrete here because then it should show me a bit more of the reflection. Okay. Right in here. Getting there, but not exactly what I'm looking for. Let's try curves. See what it's doing? It's just lightening, but it's not giving me... Oh, because I wonder if that's where my mask is on this one. Let's try the mask on this one. Aha. Okay, so let me brush in that same area. Too small. Again, where a tablet, a Wacom tablet, would come in handy. I'm getting a little bit more of the reflection there, but it's not perfect. Okay, we could try the positioning of the layer. I'm worried that it's too close together and I'm getting double chairs. Yeah, see that? So, yeah, because that pavement is totally a different color, it's not going to pick up. I'd have to come in with a clone. Cloning would work too. Actually, let's try that. Let's put that back there. Let's go back to our bottom layer. And let's try to clone in with a lower opacity. I always clone with a lower opacity. So I'm going to clone from here in. That seems to work a little better. There we go. That's not bad. Right? Now there's a lot of texture down here. It's picking up a lot of texture in there. Right? So if we want more texture, I could add a texture overlay just to kind of compound the texture. And I just want it on the bottom part. I'm going to stretch to fill. And I want it. Ooh. Is it doing anything on the bottom? No. Is it doing anything? Yep. I just want it on the bottom. So once again, just this area. Okay, so there's the before and after. Not totally happy with what I did in this area here, but you get the idea of adding that reflection. And then what I did to add the skateboarder was I brought it back here and I took it into Gen Swap and I added him using AI. So I put in a prompt. Oh, I have to paint first, right? So I have to say where I want him. I want him somewhere in here. And I want skate border. Let's just try that word. I got some weird results. It took me a while to get a good result, but I literally just created him. Can you use the, Steven says, can you use the erase tool on multiple layers? No, not at the same time. You can't. Yeah, see, that's actually interesting, the skateboarder. I'll come back to that in a second. Isn't it the shadow of the curb? Yeah, I think so, from the neon above. So I think maybe in hindsight, I would probably leave it as is. But to answer Stephen's question a bit more thoroughly is, like, I think you're talking about in Photoshop where you could say like erase or clone and it does things on multiple layers, or it takes into account multiple layers, and then Luminar does not have that capability. Okay, so there is a skateboarder. Now, if I like that, I can keep him. He looks kind of fake, but what I did, I'll just show you. I got a result that I liked, okay? And then what I did was I added him. I saved it out as a different image, okay? So I'm just going to turn off the layers, okay? So there's the reflection that I added. So this is a different version, right? I think I did a better job on this one, okay? So there's the reflection that I added. And then I added the skateboarder as a layer. Okay, so he got created in Gen Swap, and you can see there he is. So he looks a little bit more realistic, but the story was that a skateboarder came by with a goldfish in a bag, and because I was doing a long exposure, he didn't register in the scene, but he literally skated through the scene. So I thought it would be fun to add him and just have him be a ghost. So there he is. Something like that. Any questions? I'm not sure if I have time to do one more. Is there a technique or something that you see here that you'd like to know how to do? Right? I've done some blur effects. The blur is the same that I did on the flowers on the trees here. I just selectively did a blur the motion blur. Same thing I did here. Did a selective motion blur on the background and chose which parts to leave sharp. He is a ghost skateboarder. Right? This one here, I did quite a bit of work, and I demonstrate this in the course. All of the steps that I used to do this one are demonstrated in the Luminar Neo course. So I'll just remind everybody again that that is currently on sale. If you're watching this later and you're not watching the live version, if the sale is over, there will be a discount coupon code for you in the description area below, so you can still save on buying the course. But if you're watching this right now, this is July 2025. Check the website and the link in the description area below for the course, because it is 30% off right now until, what's our deadline on that, Rob? I forgot. When did we make the sale for? It goes until the 13th. So it is on for 1 week. Okay, so you have until next week at the sale price. And then if you missed it, use the coupon code below to get 20% off or $20 off. All right, let me come back here. Nope, that's not me. Okay, there we go. So this one was done with zoom blurs as well. Okay, this is all on one layer. See that? So this was all done with zoom blurs, neon and glow to add the lights, atmosphere to make them glow, and so on. Okay. Questions? Rob is swearing on a stack of Stephen King novels that the skateboarder with the goldfish actually went by. Yes, he did, for sure. Oh, it is a story that he would make up. Absolutely. He absolutely would make up. Any questions? Did you learn something today? If you learned something today, tell me what you learned. Did you have a favorite tool? I could probably do one more quick one. I'll show you guys one. I'll show you this one real quick here. I'm actually going to be doing a quick tip on this very soon, but I want to show you a way that you can quickly and easily, this is not really a special effect, add some punch to your image. So we've been talking about layers, and I did some duplicate layers to do the blur and stuff, but you can also do a duplicate layer. So I just pressed D on my keyboard to duplicate this layer and change the blend mode to literally add some punch to your image. Okay. So if I choose like soft light or hard light, it's adding contrast. See that? This is all in this layer. That's it. If I want to make it more nighttime, I chose multiply, and look what that does. Right? And of course, you can mask it as well. So a quick duplicate layer in a blend mode can alter your image significantly. Something else you can do with Luminar that you cannot do with other programs is you can do a panorama from a video. Okay, so to me, that's a special effect. So let me show you this. So this is the video, right? It's 9 seconds long, and it's just a skateboarder goes by and does a jump. Okay, but if you want to create that as a pano image, because it's going side to side, we can drop this into the pano stitching. Okay, we've got some options here. No, we're going to start it. Okay, then if I choose a custom object, so let's just continue and see what happens. So it'll play the video. If I go continue, it's going to pick several versions of the skateboarder to add to the pano. It's going to make a pano based on the entire video, panning right to left, and hopefully give us multiple dudes. Steph and Rob are at the top of the fan post. You think? And there we go. All right. So now it's picked him up multiple times. Now I have the option of choosing which kind of projection I want to use and so on. Okay. I can also kind of adjust it this way. So the panorama tool in Luminar is actually really powerful, right? Now it's got, if I want the top guy here, okay, and I go up here, there's going to be some stuff missing here, but you can actually then try and use Gen Swap or Gen Erase to fill that in, okay? But I'm just going to crop it the way they recommended. No, it doesn't want me to, come on, it doesn't want me to crop it. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to crop it the way that it recommends. And there will be our finished image. Okay, so if you have a video, and this can work from your phone, this is actually a really cool thing. So if you want to take a scene, a panoramic shot, but you want to make it bigger, or there's stuff happening that's moving like this, go side to side and do a video like that. And even I would hold your camera up and down and pan this way, right? So this one was done with a video that was horizontal, but if you take the video the other way, you'll get a much more successful, a much taller pano, right? This is one I did from a video as well at a powwow that I went to, and you can see it's missing the bit at the top here, right? But I could try and fill that in. I've tried it with Gen Erase and Gen Swap, and it didn't work. Like, I don't know why it doesn't want to fill this corner in. I've tried this in the past. Let's see if I can make it work here without entering a prompt. Okay, if I just do that. I'm hoping it will fill the corner in. Okay, so keep in mind that the Gen Swap tool is really cool for creating elements, and then you can add them to other images like I did with the skateboarder. There we go. Right, so it's filled in that spot a little bit better. It's not perfect, but at least it's not a hole up there. Right, so you could create things using Gen Swap or Gen Swap probably is a better choice, and then add that back to the original image, fade it out, morph it, blur it, all kinds of things, right? So you can use the generative tools in your special effects work as well to create elements that you want to add, right? If you start with a black image, you can literally just create like a Microsoft Word image with a black background and save it as an image or something, or use even the free tools online like PicMonkey. Create just something black, right? Then you can use that as a base layer for creating things, right? And that's something that I could do as well, and that we could have done to add that neon on the flower. Okay, questions. Can you resize a pano to a particular ratio? That's a good question. Well, let's take this one. The only way that I know of to do that would be with the crop tool and then choosing a custom ratio in here. So you could enter custom. So I could just say, I want 3:1, and there's a 3:1. So you'd have to do it after the fact with the crop tool. There isn't a way to do that when you originally create the pano, but that's a great question. I figured that out, Stephanie. Yeah. Which part is interesting, Catherine, about the doing the Gen AI stuff and then creating your own elements? I think it's pretty cool. I haven't done that a lot. It's not something that I do a lot of, but it's kind of fun to play with. All right. So tell me in the chat, did you learn something today? If you learned something today, what did you learn? Was there a favorite tool that you saw me demonstrate or technique? Are you going to play around with some special effects? Again, it's not something that I do a lot, but it's kind of fun, you know? And when you have images like these flowers, these are stock images. Again, I'll make a collection for you if you want to try it on these. And they're just flowers on a black background, right? So they're very clean and simple, and they're great for playing around and doing things like special effects. dropping a video into Pano was cool. I need to try that. I do cover that in the lesson, in the course on the Pano as tool as well, Nick. So in our Luminar course, that is covered, and I do cover it in more detail. Is it possible to turn your photo into a sketch? That's not really a tool that Luminar has. I know that's something that Topaz and some of the others have, but it doesn't really have a tool to do that. You would have to, you'd have to kind of work it a little bit on your own. Like there isn't a sketch tool. For example, I could go in here and try dramatic, okay, which removes some color, right? So it's getting there. Okay, so that's more like a sketch. But then I'd have to kind of figure out, okay, how do I make it more sketchy? I could duplicate the layer and then make this one black and white. And let me, oops. I just want to brighten the reds. There we go. Brighten it a little bit. Let's change the layer properties. Difference is a really interesting one as well. Difference blend mode looks for things that are opposite. So you could get some really bizarre things with it. Okay, so I'm getting closer, but it's not really a sketch, right? So it's not the same as the tools that you would find in On One or some of the others like Topaz. Vivian's going to play with the blur tool. Awesome. Steven, the zoom burst. Awesome. Cool. Nick's going to try duplicating an image and then changing the blend mode. Yes, that's a great one. And it's not even, don't even have to do it for effect, like special effects. You can just do it like I did with the clock tower to change the look of your image. Hey, Neil, good review of the neon tool and layers. Awesome. Learned about the shift click for drawing a straight line. That works for anything, including masking as well. So anytime you hold the shift key and click, it will draw a straight line. As soon as I click end on this live stream, Stephen, the recording will be available for you to watch immediately. So I'm actually going to sign out in the next couple of minutes because I am taking my niece to see a movie today for her birthday, which was last week. So I have to sign out because I'm off to the movies to go see Jurassic World and scare the bejesus out of myself with some dinosaurs. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks. The next live is the first. What day is this? Oh no, the next live is the 20th. What is today? Yes, the next live is the 20th of July. And I will be back to post the update of what topic that will be soon. But if you have some ideas for what you would like to see me do in one of these lives, and I know I'm out of sync, don't worry about it. If you'd like to see a particular theme in one of these lives or a tool or a technique or something, put it in the comment area below, your requests as to what you'd like me to do, and we'll take those on board and see what we can come up with. So thanks everybody for joining. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself and learned a few things today. Apologize for the out of sync, or my lip syncing is out of sync. So take care, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.